Hi there, my name is Carrie, and this is a video made to give you good, sourced information about eating during a long run so you can avoid hitting the wall or running out of energy. I often wonder if information that I read online is backed by science or if it's just what people think. So what I'm going to do is back up what I'm saying with science and give you my peer-reviewed sources at the end so you can see and check them out for yourself. So to clarify, I won't be talking much about what you should eat before and after your run. I'll mostly focus on what to eat during the run. If you didn't know that was an option, you're either in the right place or the wrong place. For more experienced runners, this might be some review, but if you're looking for the science, I promise it'll come later. So, eating while you're running. Weird thought, right? I definitely thought so the first time I heard of it. Long distance runners often refuel while doing long runs because the human body can only hold a specific amount of fuel. Like a gas tank, if you keep driving, the gas will eventually run out. So if you want to avoid emptying your tank in the middle of the run, luckily you can refuel on the go. Too bad you can't fuel up your car while you're still driving it, huh? So, since most health organizations advise us not to eat gasoline, carbohydrates are used as the body's main source of fuel. The CDC recommends things like fruits, veggies, whole grains, and beans. So, eating carbohydrates is like putting gas in the tank of your car before you go on a road trip. You know that eventually you'll have to stop and fill it up if you want to keep going. You have to do the same thing with your body. Muscles use fuel constantly, and since the fuel stores in your body are relatively small, if you don't refuel after exercising for a long time, your carbohydrates become depleted. Carbohydrate depletion is the sciencey way of saying bonking or hitting the wall. Some people say it feels like running through sludge, and that when they hit the wall, sitting down in the middle of the road and puking sounds like a perfect way to take a break. To understand why this happens, we have to understand how the body stores and uses the fuel that we put into the tank. In our body car analogy we've got going on here, your bloodstream is the fuel tank, and the fuel in your muscles is the gasoline in the engine that's ready to be burned. The fuel that the muscles store is a chemical called glycogen. Glycogen is a string of sugar that animals use as a form of energy storage, and the muscles can turn it into glucose. Glucose is a sugar and a carb that your body processes to make usable energy. If glycogen and glucose levels fall too low in the body, fatigue sets in. Fatigue is your body's gaslight. It basically is when your muscles tell your brain that they don't want to work anymore, and that if they don't stop at a gas station soon, they're going to be forced to stop. Okay guys, it's finally time to put on your science glasses because here comes the good stuff. Since your muscles don't have mouths and can't fuel themselves directly, let's look at how what you eat, specifically carbohydrates, reaches your muscles and gets converted into usable energy. First, the overview. 1. To move your body, muscles contract and relax, and this requires energy, just like energy is required to move the pistons in a car. 2. This energy comes from burning glycogen in the body or like burning gasoline in a car. 3. The energy that the muscles use to contract is only stored in small quantities in the muscles, so it can easily be depleted. And as it is used, glucose, or sugar, is pulled from the bloodstream to restock. In a car, only a little bit of gas is in the engine at a time, so as it's used, it's pulled from the fuel tank to restock there. 4. To get glucose from the bloodstream, there has to be a supply of it, like gas in the tank, which you build up by eating. 5. The amount of glucose in the blood depends on when, how much, and what you've eaten. If you've ever heard of athletes carbo-loading, what they're doing is topping off their gas tank. They eat large quantities of carbohydrates a day or two before the race, and then that results in higher carbohydrate levels in the body to pull from when they exercise later. So how does glucose get into the bloodstream? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you eat some food, let's say brown rice, which is high in carbohydrates, what happens? First, it gets chewed up and swallowed and sent to the stomach. Then once there, it gets ground up, mixed with acids and powerful enzymes, and sent on to the small intestines. There, the nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream and used as needed. The carbohydrates from the rice that are broken down to glucose are then metabolized into little things called pyruvate molecules. Pyruvate is just an intermediate between carbs and glucose as the change is being made over. This happens by going through a super cool and confusing process called glycolysis. If you're interested in knowing how glycolysis works, here's a link to a video that explains it pretty well. After glycolysis, pyruvate then goes through the citric acid cycle, also known as the Krebs cycle or the TCA cycle, but only if there's oxygen present. There will be oxygen present because marathon running is aerobic exercise. Each molecule of glucose that goes through glycolysis in the Krebs cycle produces around 32 adenosine triphosphate molecules, ATP. ATP is the energy I was telling you that the body uses earlier. It's the most common source of energy in the body. So 32 ATP molecules is a pretty good amount, but it'll get used up quickly while you're running. A fun fact is that we use about 1.4 times 10 to the 21st molecules of ATP per second. That's a ton! So what does all this mean? What do we do with all this information? Well, first what you can do is when you're planning to go on a long run, eat a meal that's high in carbohydrates. This will top off your fuel for the run to come. Next would be to figure out if you'll be running long enough to need to refuel or if you'll have enough carbohydrates in your system to finish the distance. I would suggest using endurancecalculator.com. It's a calculator that uses information like weight, age, your target time, and your sex to calculate how much carbohydrate you'll need. This is a credible source. It's based on Rappaport's 2010 research study, so you know that it'll be okay to use. If you don't want to use the calculator, think about it like this. Running 20 miles costs you 2,000 kilocalories, and 2,000 kilocalories is about the amount that a well-fueled body can store. So if you run 20 miles without refueling, you'll come to complete glycogen depletion. But it's been shown that fatigue sets in before complete glycogen depletion happens. So you'll want to replenish your stores before you hit that point. Jeukendrup outlines current carbohydrate indications in his 2014 article. And here's a table that explains things pretty well, so I thought you guys would like to see it. So taking this into account, plan your mid-run refueling accordingly. You want to avoid the wall, not run into it, fall down, refuel, then try to climb over it again. So eat before you run and bring along your snacks and water. Nobody wants to push their car to the gas station. So even knowing all of this, every person is different. Depending on variables like body type, diet, hydration, and activity levels, depletion might happen at different times. So feel it out as you train and learn how your body specifically reacts. So hopefully you now have enough information to fuel your running and improve your training. The sources I used are at the end of the video and also under the video here. So thanks for watching and happy running!